everyone, and thank you for joining me on this episode of Matcha Talk with the talented filmmaker Jason Charnick. I'm so excited about this Matcha Talk with Jason and him sharing his journey, his background, and his very powerful documentary, Getting Over. So everybody, grab your matchas and get ready for Matcha Talk with the talented Jason Charnick. Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful episode of Matcha Talk with the incredibly talented filmmaker Jason Charnick. Welcome, Jason.
Hello.
I am so excited to have you on my talk and to share you and your powerful film with everyone. And thank you so much for being on my Matcha Talk.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. This is fun. It's great.
Thank you. So what I want to do is I want to start off with your background because
right.
I'm excited to get into your documentary because
Sure.
it's absolutely incredible, but I want to let everybody know about you, how you got into film, kind of like, to where you are now.
Okay,
So,
I hope you have a few hours. I can
do.
go as deep down the rabbit hole as you want me to.
Great. Let's
Cool.
do it. Yeah. So I know that you're a Bronx native.
Yes, I am.
Woo,
Proudly.
woo. Absolutely.
Proudly.
Yes. And we love that. Being from the Bronx, it's really special. And that has a lot to do with you and, your film and growing up and all of that
Sure.
wonderful stuff. So talk to me. So how does one, come from the Bronx and then, and now we're in California and we've made this incredible documentary.
Right.
And had this amazing life, Jason.
Sure. Well, like you said, I am from the Bronx originally, born and bred.
Mm-hmm.
I lived there for about 25 years. I went to school up in Boston. I went to Boston University back in the mid-90s. And my entire life, I was actually, even though I call myself a filmmaker and an editor and, a creative person now, for my entire life growing up until I was about 25, I was supposed to be a lawyer, which is kind of funny because as we talk about the movie a little bit and how my father was a lifelong criminal, it was kind of ironic that I grew up, wanting to be a lawyer, specifically, like a district attorney, assistant district attorney, prosecutor type of guys going after criminals and such. But in between the summer of my junior year in college, I decided to take a film course. I stayed up in Boston for the summer and, just to get a couple more credits and not go back to the city and just experience part of Boston when it was, a little quiet from school and stuff. So I took a film course called the Film Industry. It was, not cinema studies or, film production or anything. It was just a course about the film industry and, the trends and stuff and what was going on, the history of it. And the first day I sat down, I remember it very well. The first day I sat down and was in this guy's class, and his name was Professor Kelly. And he said to us, he goes, don't think just because this is a summer course or a course on the film industry that, it's going to be easy or a piece of cake. I want you to know the very first test I give you guys, the average over the past few years has been like 65. So, out of 100. So, don't be alarmed if you fail the first test. That's just how I teach and, don't worry about it. And I was like, holy shit, what have I gotten myself into?
Right.
And I take the first test, and our homework assignments were like reading Daily Variety. We had a textbook that had the history of the film industry in it. So the questions were like historical questions, but as well as like, what was like the number one movie in the box office last week and what were the gross earnings and stuff like that. And just the film industry. And I took the first test, and the week after the test, he gives the grades back, and I got 100. I got everything absolutely right. And I wasn't the only one. There was maybe one or two other kids that got 100.
Awesome.
But he wasn't kidding because most of the class failed that first test.
Wow.
And I was like, I might be good at this. So I got an A in the class, which I was, very happy with, of course. And that led me into taking a couple of film courses, over the next 2 years, my junior and senior year in college. and was enjoying it. We were watching classic films and studying them and doing that cinema studies thing and, film criticism and all that. And over the course of those 2 years, it was 96, 97, I decided to not necessarily be a lawyer because I had taken a couple of law, pre-law classes in my undergrad and didn't really do well. And it was a lot of reading and it was a lot of research. And, it's not just watching an episode of Law and Order or anything like that. So I decided to, after I graduated, I decided to take a film program at NYU because, like you said, I'm from New York, and I had moved back home. And NYU's School of Continuing Education, like UCLA Extension School, or, like not the main film school, but they have like adult education. And they had a film production class that lasted about 8 weeks. And perfect timing because it was just before digital filmmaking exploded. So I learned how to use film cameras and I learned how to edit on a flatbed, cutting film. Nice. But I took an 8-week course and did really well at it. And decided I wanted to do that for a living. I didn't really want to be a director per se. I wanted to be an editor because I thought that was the best way to, get my creative juices flowing. Without, being a director's just got so many things going on. Yeah. So I decided to do that, and tough to find a job in New York when you don't have, experience in film. But when I was at NYU, I met a couple of guys that were in the actual NYU film school, where Spike Lee went. I think Spike Lee went there. Martin Scorsese went there, and Oliver Stone, and a whole lot of famous filmmakers went there. And a couple of friends that I had met in the actual film school, the Tisch School for the Arts, moved out here. One of them actually moved out here to LA and in 1999, and I decided to follow him, and I got an internship at a post-production house that did editorial for movies and film and TV and all that, and got started, and then just kind of hit the ground running and was a PA for a while and drove around and did runs and eventually got a job, as an office PA, and then made some connections and just kind of went from there. And I've been a film, a post-production professional in the business for the past, 15, almost 20 years now.
So tell me about some of the work you've done, because you've worked on some big projects. Sure.
Well, I mean, I've been very lucky over the last. I left the job at the end of the year, at the end of last year, to join my wife's real estate business and do some production work for her and editorial for her, because real estate's actually a big booming area for video production right now. But before that, for the last 10 years, I was working for a company called Framework Studio. And they do, main titles for film and television, motion graphics, production, all sorts of stuff. And I've been very lucky to work on, TV shows like The Voice, Dollhouse was on a few years ago, feature film-wise, a lot of Adam Sandler movies, Zohan, Jack and Jill. I mean, not the best stuff in the world, but, fun stuff.
Fun.
Things like A-Team and just fun things, Nothing that's winning awards or anything, but it pays the bills.
Absolutely.
And it was the stuff I like to do. I still like, even after 20 years of doing this, I still like to do film production, post-production specifically. So I've been very blessed to work on some fun projects that were, that people have had a chance to see. Whether or not they were the greatest movies in the world, I'll leave that to someone else to decide.
Absolutely.
But like I said, fun stuff to work on.
And they were fun, and entertaining, and you love and enjoy what you do.
Absolutely.
And that's the most important thing, and from all of those different great films that you worked on, you started Upstart Film Collective.
Yes, well, actually, one of my friends, whose name is Chris Jones, he started Upstart Film Collective with a buddy of his name is Grant Kuchan, and he lives in Chicago now. He actually moved out from LA about 10, 15 years ago. But my friend Chris, who actually went to Boston University too, but I didn't even know him until I moved out here. We had some very, our circles of friends actually crossed, I had some intersection at some point when we were both in school, but we didn't meet each other until we were out here, because I was a friend of, my crew that I got involved with when I moved out here. One of them was his brother. And so I ended up becoming friends with this group of people. And then I met Chris through his brother. And then, like I said, it turned out that we knew each other in college, even though we never met or knew the same people. And he had already started Upstart Film Collective. Very, it was a small, they would do like, they're actors, both the guys that started it were actors. So they would edit, actor reels and do voiceover work and stuff like that. And as I became close friends with Chris, he brought me into their circle. This was all back in like 2002, 2003, maybe even 2001. And then Grant decided to move to Chicago, and I became partners with Chris, and we did some work together. And he let me use the name, and I got the domain name, and he still edits reels under the Upstart Film Collective banner, and does some other things on his own, using that name. But he was kind enough to bring me into the company, and let me use the name and the logo, and bring me into that. And I've kind of kept the name going, even though we don't do a lot of things very much. Like I said, Getting Over is probably the most major thing we've done to this point.
Yes.
But he's let me use the name and the logo, and it's our, thing right now. And that's what Upstart Film Collective is.
And I'm so excited for that segue, because that is that is it, right? Getting Over is, I have to say, Jason, like one of the most powerful documentaries
thank you.
that I have seen. And I am so fortunate because, Jason's scoring the film and finished scoring it. So I have been privy to, to really enjoying it. And it is absolutely beautiful and so well done, Jason.
And we're not done yet, but it's getting better every day. So it's turning into a real movie finally.
Yes, it is. It really, really is. And I have to say, wow, it's really, really powerful. And I'm going to let you kind of talk about it, because it's about you and, your life and, your parents. And that's a really, really difficult thing to share,
Sure.
But you shared it in such a beautiful way. And so tell me about it. Like, how did you come upon, I'm going to make my life into this incredibly inspiring documentary?
Right. Well, it's funny that, that you say, how I kind of stumbled into it. Before I moved out to LA from New York, which happened at the end of 1999, my uncle gave me like 9 2-hour tapes, like 18 hours of high-8 videotapes, that he and my cousin, his daughter, had recorded of my father. My father passed away in late 1997. So back in May of 97, like right as I was graduating from college, my uncle decided to record my father telling his life story. He was a drug addict in New York City in the 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, until he passed away in 97. So my father basically lived a real transient criminal life in New York City as a heroin addict, basically, as a, intravenous drug user in New York City. And he was in and out of prison my entire life. And early at the time, unbeknownst to me, he started making these videotapes. My father had contracted AIDS at some point during his, drug use, as happened to a lot of people back then. You share needles, and it's the mid 80s, so AIDS was really exploding, and he unfortunately contracted AIDS. So my uncle took it upon himself to, in my father's last days, to start recording his life story. And part of that was, me actually, I had just graduated from college in May of 97 and hadn't seen my father in a few years. And my uncle arranged for me to come down and meet my dad. Not for the first time. I mean, I just hadn't seen him in a few years. But arranged for me to come down and see my dad for the first time in a while. And I brought my college diploma, and he recorded the whole encounter, luckily. And my father passed away a few months after that, in December of 97. And before I moved to LA in 1999, he gave me all these tapes. He had 18 hours of tapes of all these interviews, just raw, just talking about everything. And he's like, I don't know what I can do with these. I don't know if we'll ever do anything with these. I don't know if you'll ever do anything with these. I was trying to make a go of it in the film industry. So he's like, oh, you fancy yourself a filmmaker now? Maybe you can do something with these someday.
Yes.
Here. And he gave me these tapes, and I took them I packed them in a box with all my other crap and moved them out to Los Angeles, and they went into the closet. And they stayed in the closet, and I would go in and get a jacket or something out of my closet, and I would see these tapes, for years. And I was like, I'm going to do something with these tapes at some point, but not today. Mm-hmm. And I kept saying that for about 12 years. And actually back in like 2008, I want to say I started converting them to digital. DV, digital video was starting to really explode, and I had invested in a tape deck because I was an editor and I was trying to get work. So I wanted to, and if I ever decided to shoot my own stuff, I'd have a tape deck, and I'm building out, my own edit bay in my house. So I started transferring them to digital, and I transferred them all to DV tape and put those tapes in a drawer and said, well, at least I have them digitized now. I'll still watch them someday.
One step closer.
What's that?
One step closer.
One step. So yeah, I at least got them out, transferred them to digital, put them right back in the drawer. Mm-hmm. And then one day, I put them all into the computer. Still didn't watch them, but I had them all on the computer. So one more step closer.
Right.
Like every couple of years, I would take one tiny step. And I started making short films in about 2007, 2008. Just like 5-minute long movies. We would get a video camera, and just shoot something short and little, but just to get the blood flowing. Because as much as I was having a good time working on the projects I was working on at Framework at work, my day job, I still wanted to do my own stuff. I still wanted to not have to do other people's bidding, So I didn't have any grandiose ideas or anything, but I always had a plan to eventually do something with these. And in the meantime, we made short films and had fun, me and my friends. And then one day in 2012, it was time. It just clicked to just start working on this. So I got everything into the computer, and I started watching everything. And I don't know if you've ever tried to transcribe an interview or a videotape. It's real expensive to send videotapes out to a transcription company. Right. Just expensive. And so it was going to cost well over $1,000 if I had sent these tapes, to a, transcription company to, put them into text form and whatever. Mm-hmm. But I needed to watch them anyway. I didn't want to sit through and watch them because it wasn't always exciting. Like I said, these were raw, unedited tapes. And, my father was months away from death, and he didn't look healthy, and he didn't always sound healthy. And it's not easy to watch. But my main inspiration for watching them was I couldn't afford to send them out to be transcribed. If I could, I knew I would eventually have to watch them, but I probably would have, delayed that a little bit. So what I did was I just started watching them, and I downloaded some speech recognition software, which is funny too, because it was 5 years ago, 2012. And it was still, the technology was getting there. Now you can just speak a text into your phone, right, and it'll send the text, and it pretty much picks you up 100% almost. Mm-hmm. But back then, you couldn't just talk into your phone and have it rattle these things off. Right. So I downloaded this expensive software, rigged it up so that I would wear a headset with a microphone, because I tried to train, because it trains to your voice. And I tried to get it to work with the tape itself, and it wasn't working great. And my father has a real thick New York accent. Mm-hmm. So even when he did sound healthy and energetic, it was a super thick New York accent. Right. And so the computer was having trouble translating his voice. So I ended up training it to recognize my voice. And what I would do is I would watch these tapes with my headphones on, holding a microphone, and literally repeating everything he was saying into the computer so I can get it transcribed. And that took me a few weeks. And it was really a good opportunity too, because not only was I watching them, I was really absorbing this stuff.
Right. Jason, what was that like? You're watching these and then you're transcribing them. That must have been really, really intense for you.
Intense is the right word. And when you guys, when the audience gets to see the documentary for real, when it comes out in a couple of months, I touch upon that in the film because there were a couple of instances where I have my own memories and he'll be telling a story that I remember, but he'll be telling it from his point of view, his adult point of view. I was a little kid. So he would tell his stories, and some of his stuff would totally redefine my memories. I don't want to give too much of the movie away, not that it's a spoiler or anything, but there was one specific instance where I found out that my mother was a drug user too. And I didn't know this as a kid growing up because, frankly, why would I? And, my mother was trying to keep all of that away from me. And she stopped using drugs, shortly, after I was, born and in adolescence, but she still dabbled, I guess. And there were a couple of instances where my father would tell a story that involved her drug use that I had no idea at the time. So I had my own memory of a specific event. And then I found out that the event happened because my mother was using drugs, and I would have to stop. And this was the first time I would be hearing it. So I'm talking the story into the microphone, repeating his story into the microphone, and I would, and actually at parts, because I was so focused on making sure it was translating my words into text properly, I wasn't super focused on the content of what my father was saying. But there were a couple of times where I'd be like, what just happened? Whoa. And I was actually recording myself, because I knew I was going to use it for the documentary. And at the time, it was a real nebulous idea. I didn't really know what I was going to do with recording myself watching these things. But I set up a little camera in the corner of my room while I was doing it. And there were a couple of times I was like, did he just say that? That's not how I remember it at all. And then I would immediately stop what I was doing, flip the camera on, and do like a little almost real world type of confessional. And just kind of go off, and I have my own raw tapes of recording me watching his tapes.
Right.
And like I said, at the time, I didn't quite know what would become of that because I didn't figure out the concept of the film yet, but I wanted to get it down. But there were a couple of occasions where he would say something that was just totally, just earth-shatteringly, memory redefiningly crazy, and I'd have to stop and record myself doing it. So intense is the right word because you grow up with certain memories, and then when you find out that the events are the same but the reasoning behind them is totally different, and your eyes are opened up as to what your parents were going through back then when you're 4, 5, 6 years old. It's a real, I don't know how profane we get on this thing, but it was a real mindfuck. It was really crazy.
Yeah. And Jason, I mean, really, like, to process all of that, right? So you are, and to think back to your memories and then realize what was really going on because, you were little and, you're growing up and taking a moment and acknowledging how you feel and in that moment and letting that out. I think that is really what is the best thing to do in that moment, and not being okay with it and getting angry and all of those emotions that you feel.
It was very cathartic,
understandably. Yeah.
I mean, and I'm happy that it happened too, because I mean, some people go through their lives, like I say, you have your memories as a child and you live blissfully with what you remember, and you sometimes take those to the grave. But I'm a very truth-oriented person, I guess, a very fact-based oriented person, so I'm all about getting as much information about anything as possible, even if it's like researching buying a refrigerator, like I want to know as much about refrigerators as possible. So it's, to be able to see these things, I'm glad that I know the truth. I'm glad that I have a different point of view because, not growing up with my father in my life, it's very easy, and a lot of people don't grow up with fathers in their lives, and they, they construct a reality behind why, their father wasn't in their life. Some kids take it upon themselves too much and they blame themselves. Why is it my fault my parents got divorced? Or, did I do something wrong? And to be able to see the truth behind what was going on at the time that I was 5, 6, 7 years old, is a real liberating experience too, because although it can be real trippy and intense and a mind fuck, just to be able, after it settles down and you know what's going on, there's a peace that comes with knowing the truth behind things that went on 20, 25 years ago. And it's tough to explain, but everyone has stuff in their lives, and and everyone has to come to peace with their own demons and problems and their own issues, their own family and all that stuff. But again, for me to just know the truth, to know more information about what was going on at that time, is a real liberating experience and real easy to move forth. And as I one day eventually will hopefully have a family, I can take that information and hopefully be a better person myself and a better parent eventually, and kind of break that cycle that had continued, because it had actually gone on, not the drug use per se, but just the problems in our family and the issues in our family had gone on for generations. My grandfather and his father before that, and they all brought their baggage to their next generation. And so hopefully this will be an opportunity to break that, and I can take that knowledge forward with me, no matter how well the movie does or doesn't do, to take that knowledge with me moving forward as I eventually start my own family. Again, it's a real liberating experience and educational and all that stuff. Yeah.
I have to say, my talks are, with people who inspire me, right? Artists that inspire me. And
sure.
Truly, and I tell Jason, all the time, I say, you are incredible. You are one of the most incredible people, Jason, because you you're successful, you have a beautiful family, you're doing this powerful documentary, you're actually honoring your voice, and you are sharing your story with the world and saying, this has been really difficult, but I want to share it, and it's going
sure.
to inspire other people. And and you kept going, and that's why I said you kept getting one step closer and one step closer, and then when it was right and you felt like it was the right time and your life was in the right place, here we are today, and and we're on our way to actually being able to share it with the world.
Sure. And even that's taken, even though I was ready, I was ready in 2012. And, when we had our Kickstarter campaign and we got going, kicked it off, even then it still took, 5 years to get to this point. And, a lot of stuff had happened to me as well. I met my wife and we got married, and, we moved down here, and life happens and it got in the way. And I certainly wanted to finish this earlier than 5 years, but it's all part of the journey. And it might have taken this long, but, that's, again, part of the whole thing. And, going back to what you said about, sharing it with the world, and being inspiring, I'm a modest person when it comes to that sort of thing, because I never really considered myself, that kind of person, that would do something like that. And I've always told, and I've had friends over the years, who know my life story and who know, where my father came from and what he did, and, how it led to me coming out here, and just my entire life story. They've mentioned the same things that you did. It's like, wow, you can't believe you went through that, and here you are now. And I've always said, everybody, every single person, filmmaker or not, creative person or not, everybody's got some sort of family demons, or whatever word you want to use, some sort of family angst that has affected them in a certain way. Everybody does. Nobody is living, a fancy sitcom TV life where everything works out perfectly in a half an hour. Right. Everybody's got their shit. And so I've never considered myself anything special over anyone else because of that, and I just, feel motivated to share it with people. And if it affects people and it can help, other children who are children of drug addicts or drug addicts themselves, or any family member who's been touched by any of that, if I can help them even get in touch with their own voice, whether or not they need to share their story with the world, that'd be great too. Or just, use my experiences to help them, learn more about themselves and their own family stuff. I'm happy to do that. But I've never considered myself, anything different than anyone else, because we all have that stuff going on. And if I can share, if I can have the opportunity to share my story, I'm more than happy to do so.
Well, you have, and I appreciate you saying that, but you are truly inspiring, Jason.
Thank you.
Because
Thank you. I'll still take it.
Thank you. I always tell all the artists, I'm like, everyone's so humble. I'm like, just say thank you, because it's well deserved. It's easy to go into the negative. It's easy to go ahead and run away from things and do drugs and drink and escape and and push it to the side and not have to deal with things, rather than facing them and saying, I'm going to take this and do something positive with this.
Sure.
Not that it's easy, you know what I mean, and at all, but you do it in the time that you do it, as long as it takes to make it happen, because it's your voice, it's your story. So you want to make sure that it's true to the way that you want to share it, and it's going to take as long as it takes. That's your deadline to put onto it. There's no rush. And now it's getting close to, us being able to see it, and which I'm excited about. And, it'll be on my show's website, and also just having, the excitement of watching, the final score with Jason, and and I'm just like, I'm over the moon excited about, actually sitting down and watching it once you get the final edit and all of that. That must be an amazing feeling, Jason, to know that you've been working on this for so long, and here it is, we're almost there.
It is, when I first started the project in 2012, I thought it would take a year. I was blessed enough to find, an editor. I never wanted to edit it myself either, because I didn't want to be too close to it. So I was very lucky to find, my editor. Her name is Sharon Rudder. She's done incredible work on this movie over the past 5 years. And to ask her, when we first brought her on, she was supposed to only work a few months and hand it off and be done with it. But we've become very close friends, and she's a documentarian herself and an accomplished editor in her own right. And, it was never supposed to take this long. And every time I would post an update on the Facebook page or the Kickstarter page saying, we're so close, it's only a few months away. And that would be in 2013 and 2014. And it's real tough, to, like I said, I wanted to get it done earlier, but it hurts to be able, to think you're so close, and then the finish line keeps getting pushed on you. But part of it was the perseverance to get through, and we didn't have a lot of money to make this thing. A lot of even independent movies that have Kickstarters and whatever, very often raise, $250,000, $1 million. And you could do a lot with that money. We didn't get a lot of money. And I paid a lot of, money out of my own pocket to make this work. And I was asking a lot of people, to sacrifice their time and their talents. And so when you do that, sometimes, when people are helping you out of their own, the kindness of their own heart, in addition to getting paid, I was trying to compensate people as well. It was important to me. But when you're asking people to, work on something as their side project and get dedicated to it, and it's not their story, so they're not as intensely involved as maybe I was, it takes a long time. People fit in the work when they can. And so while I wish I could have nailed people down and strapped them into a chair and said, get to work until we're done, when you ask people to do favors like that, and like I said, thank God I had Sharon, and thank God I have Jason, and thank God I have all these other people that helped me out along the way, but they have lives too, so things sometimes take a little longer, when that happens. But I every step of the way we have gotten something done.
Absolutely.
And we really are super duper close, so to be able to be this close to the finish line is very exciting, because you don't know how the world's going to, respond to the movie. You don't know how they're going to accept it. So I'm real anxious to, share it with everybody.
I know.
And blessed that I've had all these people be so generous with their time and their energy and their talents to help. It's not just my story. Everything that you guys will see on the screen is all there because of all the people that helped make this thing possible. Everybody. So it's my story, but it's just like any movie, it's it's an amalgam of all the talents of everybody involved. So it's taken this long because people have other things to do, but I'm very blessed to have these other people involved. So.
And
I don't know if that answers your original question.
Absolutely.
Sure, I mentioned everybody else that was helping out.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's a beautiful collaboration, Jason. I mean, truly, with with this wonderful team that you have, and and I definitely know that Jason was very inspired and and excited, and and everyone, your editor and everyone is putting their heart and their best work into it, because it's a special project,
And you know what? And what really gets to me at this point is, as much as when my father passed away, how you can look at that as a sad event, or the life that he had can be considered a sad life, and listen, nobody should go before their time. Nobody should have to go through what he went through. And I really had to redefine a lot of how I felt about drug use and drug addicts and addiction and things like that. But the way I look at it, like, I mean, for instance, Jason, we worked together at Apple almost 20 years ago at this point. It was like 2001. And he was one of my dear friends at the time, and we trained together, and we lost touch. And after I think like 2001, when we were both up in Cupertino for a while, and we lost touch for a while. And when I had a couple of other composers lined up at the time, this was probably already like 2014 at that point, I had a couple of other composers lined up at the time, and they fell through. And I think I was just on Facebook one day, and Jason had posted, one of his songs that he had made and put on iTunes. And it just spoke to me. It was a great little tune. Take Six. I think it was Take Six. And I was just like, this is a great song. This guy's pretty awesome. And I knew he was into music, and I didn't know really what he was doing at the time. We hadn't spoken in a few years, and we reconnected. I contacted him out of nowhere, and he was and we talked on the phone for I think 3 hours, that first conversation, and it was like there was an immediate reconnection happened almost instantly, and he was all about it. And I was excited, and I kind of jumped the gun, and it caused, some other angst with my producers, because, part of the collaboration is collaborating with your producers. And I was like, you're hired, so I kind of jumped the gun a little bit,
right.
But I knew it was the right thing. And, and so, and hearing the final product that he just delivered today is just unbelievably amazing. Yeah. And so I kind of look at it like, even though all those bad things happened to my father, and bad things that might have happened to me along the way and all that, but to have these relationships that have formed, like I said, when I first hired my editor, I had put an ad on Mandy.com, which is a film production website for people, looking for jobs and stuff, and I got like 1,000 different, resumes from people, and hers stuck out to me. Yeah. And she was a documentarian and a director herself, and we brought her on board, and she was all about it. And I thought at the time I'd, give her a couple of bucks and pay her, and she would work for a few months, and that would be it. And thank you for your time, and good luck to you. Right. But no, she got into the story, and she had her own family stuff that was very similar to mine in a way, but yet her own unique situation. And the project spoke to her, and she stayed on even after she was done editing. She's been a great sounding board this whole time as we finished it off, because things have changed and been reworked a little bit since she edited it. She's still the editor, and her final cut is very, very much, what the heart of that is still in the film, because she helped find the storyline, the through lines throughout the movie. And I thought we would just bring her on board, she'd work, and then she'd go on about her business. But she's become a dear friend and a trusted confidant and a trusted colleague. And even though all these bad things might have happened, I look back and see the connections and the relationships that I've made over the past 5 years working on this. And, I don't want to say it was worth it, because, that's a tough thing for a kid to go through, what I went through, and it's tough for anybody to have to deal with. But I look back and I just look at the relationships that I've made with people that have worked on the film, and people I've reconnected with, and I've reconnected with my cousins, my uncle's daughter who lives out here in Los Angeles, and to have all these connections and relationships, and I consider them all my family, and to have all that happen. Yeah. I won't say it doesn't matter how the movie does, because obviously I want it to do well. I want it to have a wide audience. But to have all these relationships, that have happened near and dear to my heart, it's nothing short of a miracle. It really is. And I'm so blessed to, be in touch with Jason again, because if not for this film, if not for the things that happened to me, if not for me to make the decision to move out to LA, I never would have met Jason in the first place. And this movie might never have been made. So along the way, all these things have happened, and it's all been building to this, it's all, right. And that sounds overly dramatic, but just all these things happen that affect a person. And, to have all these good things that have come out of, again, no matter how the movie does, to have all these good things in my life that have come out of it, I can't ask for anything more. I really can't. So it's very special. It's a very special.
I'm just smiling because, Jason, it's a reflection of you and your beautiful life.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thank
truly,
you.
it is, Jason. You took this, and you truly, you have made it into this really beautiful thing with a lot of people. And I know that, your parents would be so proud.
Thank you. You're not the first person to say that. And I think so too. And I actually just showed the last cut of the movie. Like I said, it's 96% there. There's a couple graphics that need to get done. And then now that we have the final music, we just need to sound mix. But I showed the movie to my uncle, who was the one who originally interviewed my dad way back when. And he wrote me back just yesterday, and he was like, awesome job. Yeah. This is amazing. And I'm sure to him, when he, like I said, when he recorded those tapes and gave them, he didn't know what was going to come of it. So just the fact that we've made something out of it over the past 20 years getting to this point, and that, he's happy with it, it makes me happy, because, what's really been one of the reasons why I really got into film is I wanted to make sure I leave something behind on this earth after my time. And hopefully I've got many, many, many years to go. But the one thing that's always enthralled me was leaving the planet in a better place than it was before I got here. And I'm not an activist. I'm not, like a crazy marcher or any of those things. Like I mean it on the most micro of levels. I just wanted to, I always had it in my mind as I was growing up that one day I would no longer be here. And I want to make sure that there's something left behind that says Jason Charnick was here. Right. Maybe it's because my father was so anonymous. I mean, you kind of look back like yet another casualty of the drug war. I mean, how many people do we see on a yearly basis, that we lose to drugs? And it's real easy to make these people into a statistic. It's real easy to say, X number of people passed away from heroin overdoses last year. But every one of those people has a story. Every one of them.
Absolutely.
Every one of them had something happen to them that led them to their choices and what they've done in their lives and their families and their children. And all I ever really wanted to do was just kind of leave something behind that says, this is us. Not the TV show and all that, but this is the Charnick family. This is the impact we've made on the world, however minor, and if anyone else can see that and learn something from it and take something from it, it makes me happy. But because even though it's taken this long, like I said, I just wanted to leave something behind that says, I made this, we were here.
Absolutely.
And listen, I've also, part of the thing over the last 5 years is I've put a lot of roadblocks in front of myself too. It's not easy to do this. It's not easy to tell the world. There have been plenty of times that, I've gotten real close, to the finish line and have thrown my own roadblock up. And, people who have been giving me work, or graphics or anything to help out with the movie, I just kind of give them their space or I stop working on the movie myself for a couple months at a time, just because it's so intense. I just need to take a break.
Sure.
And there's a lot of fear there. Like I'm afraid the movie will not be accepted, or people will watch it and think it'll flop, or just be like, this is bullshit. Get it out of here. So there's been a lot of fear,
Yeah.
and with
And
that.
I have to say, like, the fear and the doubt part of it too, Jason. And I talk about this with, with every artist that
Yeah,
I've
probably,
written
yeah,
stuff.
everybody.
Everyone has it. Like, I don't care who they are or what they're doing. I'm like, throw the fear and the doubt back there, because they're always there and they'll always be there, but you can't pay them any mind.
Right.
And, and honestly, this is your true voice. This is your story. Are people going to connect to it? You can't control that. All you
Right.
can do
Right.
is put out your amazingly inspiring story and share that with the world, because it is going to connect to so many people and around the world. So it's not, I always talk about technology and us being able to share our art, not just, in our small space, but throughout the world. There could
Right.
be someone, clear across the world that's going to be so inspired and moved, and share that with other people and just your family. And just sharing that with your family is, I know that they are so inspired, and everyone who's worked on it has been inspired. So just that is absolutely incredible. And the fact that you're talking about, you leaving something significant in this world that only Jason Charnick can leave.
Right. And that's why I recommend to anybody that's, like you said, eventually you have to put that fear aside and be like, listen, world, here it is,
Yes.
like it or not, and if you don't, I'm sorry you don't, but, I was true to my voice.
Absolutely.
And I did what I needed to do to get over my issues. If you don't like it, I'm sorry you don't, but that's on you,
Right.
but at the very least, if somebody can watch it and, be inspired to whatever they do, even if it's just, paint your walls in your bedroom, if it just inspires one person to, deal with their own issues, drug addiction or no, whatever it is,
Right.
Inspire someone to be like, you know what, if this clown can do it, and I don't call myself, I don't call myself a filmmaker, I don't call myself an artist, but this is what it is. And if it inspires one other person to just be like, you know what, he did it, and he did it with next to no money, and he did it, fighting through his own demons across the way and his own issues. Maybe I can do it too. And, maybe what I make won't be that great, but it'll help me. So if that happens to just one other person, I know there's that cliche and people say it, but it's true. If just one other person says, I decided to pick up a camera and do something, because I saw your movie.
Yes.
Man, I would be just over the moon and just ready to be like, you know what? I'm done.
Right.
I did it. I'm done.
Yes.
So hopefully it does get a great reception, but if not, if it just touches one other person, it's really, it would make me ecstatic. It would make me very happy to have that happen.
And it will. And, and that leads me into, like, what can you say to, filmmakers and, and people just watching your film to inspire them, whether they are a musician or doing a film or, whatever art they're doing. And art is really what's true to our voice and, and what special talent that only we have. So,
Right.
But they're a little doubtful or fearful and don't want to share it because they're afraid they're going to be judged or they're going to be looked upon and, and all of this negative stuff. It's like you've got to let that go. So you've done so much of that, Jason, and truly you are a filmmaker and an artist. I mean, you truly are. And that's something to be very proud of because you've worked very, very hard at that. It's not something that, you were just like, oh, it was like this easy thing. You have worked years and, and collaborated and, had your challenges and your struggles and all of that. Yet, here you are stronger and better and more inspiring than ever. And truly, so what like key piece besides of your life that you can share with someone?
Sure. It's a cliche. It really is, but it's a cliche because it's true. And you got to follow your passions.
Yes.
You got to follow your and don't answer to anyone else. Whatever you do, whether you be a musician or a painter or not even an artist at all, if you just want to be a lawyer or you want to be a bricklayer, if that's what you like, you have to follow your passions. Yes. And not put a time limit on things. The one thing I've learned is life does often get in the way. And if it's something that means something to you, whatever it is, you just got to go do it and be that thing. And if it's if it's being a filmmaker and you don't quite know your voice, pick up a camera. Everybody got a camera on their phone now.
Yeah.
Go out there and, shoot
That's
the
right.
trees, shoot the garbage man, picking up the garbage. If you like to shoot film, shoot video, do it. Don't let anyone stop you. Don't let anyone tell you can't.
Mm-hmm.
You can do, I won't go so far as to say you can do whatever you want, but
Mm-hmm.
as long as you're not hurting anyone,
Right.
do what touches you. And
Right.
that's how you stay true to yourself. And that comes across in the content that you create. Music, movie, painted house, whatever it is. If you are passionate about it and true to yourself, it shows in your work and it shows in what you do. And don't get discouraged if it don't go right the first time. This is, it's my first feature film, but I made a couple of short films before that. They're not masterpieces. I'm not, it's not Citizen Kane. I'm not Orson Welles. I'm not Martin Scorsese. But this is something I wanted to do. This is something that meant something to me. And this is something I wanted to share with the world. So, don't worry if you don't win awards. Don't worry if someone else says what you're making is crap. Do you like it? Do
That's
you
right.
feel like you've gotten your soul out there and were true to yourself? If so, then you have not done anything wrong, So
Mm-hmm.
as long to anyone out there that has a passion, that wants to create, that wants to do anything, stay true to yourself, stick it out, take it as long as you need to do whatever you do to make yourself happy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do that, I mean, if we all did that, it would be nice that the world would be a better place.
Absolutely.
All that stuff comes in time,
Yes.
but all that other stuff comes in time. But if you just at the moment of inception, stay true to yourself and have an idea and want to pursue it to its end, to whatever makes you happy. And that's really the only advice I can give. And if you do that, everything else will follow from that. You might not get rich, you might not get, famous or anything, but you can go to sleep at night and be like, I did my best. I'm happy with what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started making this movie, I won't lie, I wanted to win awards. I was like, this is a great story. This is going to be a masterpiece. This is going to be amazing, and it's going to get me famous, and it's going to get me a 2-picture deal with Universal, and all these things will follow. And I mean, while that would be great,
Mm-hmm.
if it doesn't happen, I watched the movie in its entirety a couple of nights ago because like I said, I sent it to my uncle, and I was like, this is a real film. This is a real film now. Put the music in from Jason.
Oh yeah.
Wow, this is a real thing. And it
Yeah.
just it made my heart so full and happy
Mm-hmm.
that I got to this point. So if the awards and the accolades come, fantastic. That's great. I'll take it. But if it doesn't, like I said, I'll be able to go to sleep, have my head hit the pillow and be like, I did right by my family and I did right by myself. And, everything else after that's really gravy. It
Yeah.
really is.
Absolutely. And that's the key is like, awards and all of that. Of course, you love that recognition, right?
Sure.
Because you work so hard and
We
all
all
of
do,
that.
we all want to be
Everybody
recognized.
does. Absolutely. But you know what? Like you said, it's honoring your voice. It's knowing that you stay true to who you are. Like you put your art out there. You actually put your voice out there, which is a rarity. And and that's why I love doing my talks and with you and artists that inspire me. I'm fortunate that my husband is my biggest inspiration. Jason truly is. He's
It's great. It's
from
great.
the moment I met him, he's constantly inspiring me, and to be able to share and collaborate with him on my shows and and what he's working on is truly a gift. And and it's something that you treasure and you have to make time for.
Sure.
It doesn't matter how busy you are, you take that hour or that half hour and you really give to
Exactly.
what you
Whatever length of time it is, however long it takes. If
yeah,
it's something that means something to you, you'll find the way to find the time. You really.
absolutely.
And to speak to, like I said, when I got started, I was like, I want to win awards. I want to show that person I can do this, and I
Right.
want, you can be jealous of me as I, accept an award or get famous or whatever. When that happened, like when this movie really started making great strides was when I finally started to let that stuff go. It's great to want to do those things, but if you're getting into it just to do those things, it's never going to happen because people can see through that bullshit.
Yeah.
People can see when you're fake and
absolutely.
that you're just trying to, impress somebody or win an award. When you actually do have that stuff happens, it's when you let it go. When you decide it's not important to get famous is when you can create something that's so true that people notice it and then the accolades follow. Mm-hmm. So it's a real interesting, dynamic in all of, creative endeavors. Lots of people want to get famous, but the ones that do are the ones that were able to let those trappings go and be true to their own art in whatever way, because that's when people notice your talents. When you just get rid of all that artifice and can just, open yourself up, that's when people notice how talented, anybody can be. And that's when the accolades follow. So it's real important to try to let those trappings go and be your best self. And that's when things follow from that. So
absolutely.
And that happens.
Jason, you've given to, so many people. You've given your heart, and everything to your film, to the team that's been helping you, your beautiful family. So how does Jason give to himself? How do you nurture your life, your creativity, What does Jason do?
Well,
how do you fill your cup? Which, by the way,
if you see my walls, I am a consumer. I am also, in addition to all these things, I am also very much a consumer of goods. A true American in that way. No, I collect things. I collect autographs of filmmakers that mean something to me. I got Martin Scorsese back there, and I got Kevin Smith over there, and I got some Beatles records back there, and I enjoy collecting, baseball cards and sports memorabilia and movie memorabilia and all those things that my wife doesn't understand one bit why I'm into that. But it gets me closer to the people that I respect. Like I said, I got, Scorsese and Kevin Smith back there, and they're two of, Martin Scorsese, New York filmmaker, who's made a million incredible films that have affected me throughout my childhood and my adult life. And he's probably the main inspiration for me coming out here to Los Angeles to get into the film industry. Kevin Smith, even though a very different filmmaker from Martin Scorsese, independent-minded, did the same thing I did. He made Clerks on, pocket change, basically, and got his friends to believe in what he was doing. And he made his own movie without anyone's input and without anyone's, he didn't give a shit. He wanted to do it, and he did it. And whatever anyone thinks of what he's, done since, I respect that immensely. And he's inspired me very much, to follow my path. To collect things like autographs and stuff like that, get me closer to my heroes and the people that I respect and the people I look into and my inspirations. So I like to, it helps relieve the stress and things of, to do that. It's one of my favorite hobbies. And like I said, it's connected to what I do for a living. So it's part of what helps me relax.
And it keeps you inspired, And
it does. Like I said, I have these posters on my wall. I every day I look and I see these guys that followed their passions and didn't, listen, when Martin Scorsese made his first film in like 66 or something, he wasn't thinking about awards. Right. He wasn't thinking about accolades. Yeah. Kevin Smith certainly didn't give a shit about any of that when he made Clerks. Yeah. They had an idea, they had a passion that they wanted to follow. And, and at the time, when I first started seeing these movies, when I saw Goodfellas in 1990 or Clerks in 94, I didn't have any idea I was going to be a filmmaker, but all these things were in there subconsciously, all building to this, Right. So they're a constant inspiration to me, not just having a poster on the wall, but I see these guys as they were in my shoes, and so, to be able to look upon that every day and feel that inspiration, even if subconsciously, it still pushes me every day, to share my voice with the world as much as I can.
Absolutely. And I love that you said that, Jason, because it's so important to surround yourself with artists that inspire you. And, and I mean, for me, definitely I'm always inspired, especially when I'm working with my team on Kate and we're coming up with different scenes, whether it's a voice, a voice acted scene, or whether it's a storyboarded scene or anything like that. And these cartoons that I've grown up with, and artists that inspire me, and directors,
Sure.
and and to surround myself in that world. I always say when I wake up, I get my coffee, and and I chant and I do my daimoku, and then I open up my computer and I look at all this beautiful art, that these incredible artists have either sketched or sent me or whatever it is, and that's how I start my day, super inspired.
It's a great way to start your day.
It's the best. And and having your room with all of these beautiful, posters and, filmmakers around you. And Jason, a lot of people everywhere are going to have your poster and be inspired by you. And, and I'm just so honored and so excited to have shared this time with you, and can't thank you enough.
It was my pleasure.
For coming out on my Matcha Talk, and and talking about your film. And I'm excited. I'm going to be talking about it everywhere.
I appreciate that.
And I definitely am. And I just want to say and thank you. Thank you for being such an incredible light in this world, Jason, and really taking all of the struggles and the hardships that you have. And I can't tell you, it really, to say it inspires me is beyond, and because it's such a challenging thing. And I think when people really see, or people connect to your story, what you've done is nothing short of extraordinary.
Well,
thank you so much. And is there anything else that you want to say? I feel like I could talk with you.
Yeah,
all day.
I off for a while there. Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me share a little bit of what's motivated me and inspired me, to make the movie. Even just having this conversation, brings me joy, because it's just another way to share what means something to me with the world. Mm-hmm. So, whether or not 5 people or 5,000 people see this, or 50,000 or 500,000, hopefully, right. Just to be able to share it with anybody out there who wants to listen, it's a real blessing that I can, that I'm afforded the opportunity to speak to people like that. And it's really exciting. Stay tuned. The movie will be out soon.
Absolutely.
No later than this summer. It couldn't be closer.
I know.
So just stay tuned, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. And thanks for having me. And
thank you, Jason.
Thank you for all your kind words. I appreciate it. And to anyone out there that's watching, feel motivated to, do what makes you happy. As long as you're not hurting anyone else, do what brings you joy, and try to share it with the world, because I'm watching, I'm listening. I'm more than happy to see what other people do and make, and see what's out there, because that's what we're here for, is to connect with other people.
Yes.
And have all these, the technology's been great, and we have all these ways via music and painting and filmmaking and all these other ways to share our voice with the world. So I'm out there, I'm listening too. If you've got something to say, please share it with the world, and we'll check it out. And, that's what we're here for. So thanks for having me, and thanks for letting me share my story with everybody.
Thank you so much, Jason, and keep us posted.
Oh.
Definitely, and again, thank you so much. You're amazing. And go. Oh, there it is.
I need a little. Yeah, I need the
I know. I took a sip of my matcha. I was just so into our conversation. I was like, okay.
I was like, oh, my throat's getting dry. I started going off for a second there. Wow.
I know, but thank you, and go and enjoy the rest of your day. And
I'm going to go buy a refrigerator, actually.
What's that?
I was talking about it before. I think I might go buy a refrigerator today. So there you go.
Okay, there you go. It's a perfect day to do that.
And you know what? Because I should mention it, because you forget, but it is Memorial Day, and even though I might go buy a fridge, and we might all go out and be grilling There are people in this world that don't have the opportunity to, or the freedom to even talk about things as openly as we get to
Absolutely.
here. So even though the tenor in the country right now isn't as good as it should be,
Right.
um, you know, much respect and all love to anyone who's given their life or given a limb or given any of their energy, of themselves and sacrificed of themselves for our freedom. So thank you to everybody out there who's done that. I have nothing but respect and love for our soldiers and people who have given
Absolutely.
what they've, have sacrificed what they need to and been true to themselves, not to just create something to share with the world, but to give us the freedom and the opportunity to do so. So thanks to everyone out there who's done that. So
Absolutely. A lot
yeah,
of love and appreciation to all of
absolutely,
them, definitely, and their beautiful families
absolutely.
as well. So thank you so much, Jason, and go and enjoy your beautiful day.
You too. Say hello to
With
Jason.
your, I will, and with your beautiful family. And thank you so much, Jason. You are amazing.
Thank you. So are you. So are you.
Thank you.
Appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, Jason.
You
Thank
too. Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful episode of Matcha Talk with the incredible filmmaker Jason Charnick. I'm so excited to have had Jason on my Matcha Talk to share his story about his upcoming powerful documentary, Getting Over. You've gotten a little bit of insight into Jason and his world and his background and his absolutely inspiring story. You'll be able to see more about his film, Getting Over, on my website, baddaycate.com. And you'll also be able to stay in touch with everything that's happening on Matcha Talk's Facebook page. I'll have links to Jason's work there as well. So, everybody, again, I hope that you are as absolutely inspired as I am by these incredible artists that are making a difference every day by their powerful voices. And you have that powerful voice as well. So go ahead and grab your matcha. And remember, go do what you love and love what you do.